6 months ago, when we found out that Dr. Gilbert was leaving, the board promised to develop an appropriately inclusive and transparent process to find our next president. And we knew that the person we were looking for would have to overcome 3 challenges. The first was financial stability, to deal with declining enrollment at the university and fewer state dollars coming into our coffers. The second was affordability. As tuition goes up and job opportunities go down, we knew that if college isn't affordable for our students, or the payoff of graduation wasn't worth it to them, that they'd go somewhere else. The third was adaptability. The landscape of higher education is changing, and we knew that we needed a leader that can navigate uncertain times. We also knew that this job would be a very attractive place for someone to come. In fact, 107 people from around the world applied for the job. 16 of them were given face-to-face interviews. 5 of them were invited to Huntington for on-campus interviews. But after all that, we discovered that there was only one Brad Smith. There's actually a few others, I think. But only one's the son of Marshall, and only one had seemingly been preparing his entire life for just this moment in time. Brad Smith is undoubtedly the right person in the right place at the right time to lead Marshall University as our next president. I could read you a long list of his accomplishments, everything he's done to get to this point, but most of you here already know him. And whether you know him as Brad from Kenova, Intuit Brad, or anything else, from now on, we're all going to know him as President Smith.
I want to begin by thanking a few people. I want to start with you, Patrick, Mr. Chairman, for your tireless effort in leading a very rigorous, transparent, and inclusive search process. Absolutely. I'm just one of hundreds of people that was touched by the process, and your collaboration and your stewardship were incredible. President Gilbert, I want to thank you and Lee. Your collective leadership exemplified the passion, the purpose, and the profound commitment that you hold in your heart for all of our students, our faculty, our staff, and our community, and for me and Alys. And I will tell you, no one will ever fill your shoes, but it will be a privilege to walk in your path and to build on the foundation that you've left at Marshall University. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. Ms. Parks, you set the standard in leadership. As the president of our Student Government Association, from the way you lead your life every single day, and from how you actively participated in this process, you inspire me. I will learn lessons from you. Thank you so much. I want to thank the Board of Governors, the Presidential Search Committee, the staff, the faculty, the students, the alumni, the community in Huntington, and the entire state. All of you actively participated in this process, and you showed the rest of the world why we say we are Marshall. I will tell you, it has been a privilege to be included among 107 very distinguished and deserving candidates, and I am humbled to have emerged the final candidate. I want to thank my daughters, Peyton, who is here, the newest member of the West Virginia Bar as of yesterday. My other daughter, Devin, who owns her own business in San Francisco, and you know what it's like to be a small business owner. It's only you, so she couldn't leave to come here, but she's with us in spirit. But both of them coached me and encouraged me to get back into the game and to pursue this dream. And I want to thank my wife, Alys. She's my reason. She's all my reasons. You're going to find out the best thing about having me in the presidency is that we're a package deal. And I assure you, she is the talent in the family. She is a force for good and has a heart of gold. I love you. Last but not least, I want to thank all of you who supported me, but I want to thank all of you who did not support me. because it was your courageous conversations, it was your constructive debate, it was your willingness to challenge my qualifications and my track record that exemplified the civil discourse we need to have at Marshall University and the diversity of thought that makes every outcome better. And I will assure you, you made me a better candidate, and I will be a better president because of your perspectives. So I want to thank you as well. Now, you may be asking, why would someone who has had a career on the West Coast come back and enter a process where they know they're the only non-traditional candidate who also happens to be a patron of the university, knowing that those questions would cause many, if not more, to suggest that maybe I'm not qualified and my candidacy is not legitimate? Well, my wife, Alys, would tell you it's because I have a tendency to run towards danger, not from it. And while that may be true, I will tell you that the real reason can be summed up in one word: purpose. For those who were at the on-campus interviews, you heard me share some of this. Mark Twain once said the two most important days in your life are the day that you're born and the day you discover why. I've pretty much had an implicit understanding of my why for most of my life, but it wasn't until I retired as CEO of Intuit in 2019 that I took the time to make that explicit. My why is to level the playing field of opportunity in West Virginia and in Appalachia, and to invest in those who have invested in me. And I see Marshall University and the education that it offers as the great equalizer. It transforms obstacles into potential and possibility. It did that for me and my brothers and many others who were first in their family to go to college, and I considered the opportunity to be its president the greatest privilege to pay it forward. I also believe that the journey that's led me to this moment has prepared me to be an active contributor, along with our faculty and staff and our students and our Board of Governors and our community, to help advance our institution to its next chapter of great. And I believe that those skills and those experiences that I've had will never be more important than they are right now. I am a West Virginia native. I am a graduate of our K-12 public school system. I am a son of Marshall. None of those things prepared me to be the next president, but they did prepare me for a career that took me throughout the world, leading large, complex organizations through turnaround, through transformation, and through high-growth periods of their success. And it's a combination of my upbringing in West Virginia and my education in our K-12 system and at Marshall, and my leadership experience that's produced a set of skills and a proven track record of helping organizations lead through transformational change without losing their soul and their purpose. And I think that's an important time for Marshall right now to embrace, because I tell you, we have a storied history. We have a strong foundation upon which to build. I'll do a little Uncle Brad story time. This is what they used to accuse me of back on the West Coast. You know, we've been here since 1837. We've driven 184 years of continued growth and advancement. Throughout that journey, we have produced over 100,000 alumni, many of whom have reached the pinnacle of their chosen profession. At every step along the way, our academic standing has gotten stronger, from our academy origins in 1837, to a college in 1858, to a university in 1961, to the Carnegie R2 Doctoral University with high research activity in 2018. And our student athletes and our athletic program have been our source of pride. They are our pro team in Huntington, West Virginia. And yes, we've tasted the bitterness of defeat. We've had the tragedy of a plane crash. But we've risen from those ashes. And we have won bowl games and national championships, including the National College Cup and soccer this past season. And through it all, our university has remained student-centered, community-focused. We've built an international brand, and we have so much opportunity ahead. But as you know, and as Patrick Farrell said, we don't have a guaranteed future. No one does in this fast-changing world. We now live in a global economy connected in the cloud, powered by the Internet of Things. These things are driven by big data, artificial intelligence, machine learning. We're on the cusp of quantum computing and the metaverse. And the net impact of all that is the velocity of change is exponentially faster than it was just a half a dozen years ago. In fact, 90% of all the world's information was produced in the last 24 months. And this has given rise to something known as the knowledge doubling curve. The knowledge doubling curve attempts to measure how long it takes for all of human knowledge to double. In the year 1900, they estimate it took 1 century. In the decade of 2020, they estimate it'll take 12 hours. The net result is disruption and a need for constant reinvention. It's touching every part of society. For those who are in private industry, 52% of the companies that were on the Fortune 500 the list in the year 2000 are no longer on the list because they no longer exist. And higher learning is not immune. We know we're facing unbundling, low-cost alternatives, reductions in federal and state appropriations, challenges with population which impacts our enrollment. That leads a lot of people, like leading scholars such as the late Dr. Clay Christensen, to suggest half of our colleges and universities are at risk of closing their doors or going bankrupt in the next 10 years. It's also impacting how students learn and their preferences for learning. They have these unique cognitive abilities now. They have the ability to do multiple things simultaneously, but they also prefer to learn differently. They want to have a more flexible, experiential, interactive, and interdisciplinary education process. So the implications for Marshall: a wonderful foundation, a strong international brand, but we're going to have to continue to adapt and innovate to position ourselves and our students for the 21st century. Now, when I was on campus, I was asked about my vision for Marshall. And I smiled and said what Stephen Covey once said when he wrote the book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Or as my mom says in Wayne County, son, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, use them in that proportion. We all know that developing a vision or a strategy is a team sport. It should be open, it should be inclusive, it should be iterative, it should be based upon data, in-market evidence. So I'm not going to share what I shared then because I presented it as a hypothesis. Because that hypothesis needs to be a team effort where we all come together. We all share the best practices that we've learned and seen, and we all develop this together. But what I will close with is I believe that we're going to have to make bold choices. And bold choices start with having the right mindset. And there are 3 mindsets I promise you I'm going to bring to this position. And I hope these mindsets are ones that we all embrace and we all share. The first is to dream bigger. The second is to deliver faster. And the third is to define excellence. Now, when I talk about dreaming bigger, I don't know about you, but in my lifetime, I haven't seen success be limited when teams aim too high and miss. I actually see success limited when we aim too low and we hit. We are an international brand. We are a core economic driver in southern West Virginia and throughout Appalachia. We have a story to tell. We need to punch above our weight, and we need to stretch for the stars. I believe we have the talent, we have the capability to do it, and I want us to dream bigger. The second is to deliver faster. Now, if you study nature, or if you've read Rudyard Kipling, it's very seldom the big that eat the small. It's the fast that eat the slow. In a world where the knowledge doubling curve is accelerating, we have to make sure we're moving fast enough to keep up with our students' needs, the market demands, and the competitive alternatives. Now, when I talk about competitive alternatives, these are all institutions that also have a shared governance process, just like Marshall. But you remember the joke that we all heard here in West Virginia. The 2 friends are camping in the woods. A bear comes after them. They start to run. One friend turns to the other friend and says, I don't think we can outrun this bear. To which the friend replied, I don't have to outrun the bear, I just have to outrun you. We need to be the fastest moving shared governance university in the world so that we can keep pace with society and take our place, which takes me to the third and final mindset, to define excellence. We can and we should be the standard by which all other universities and colleges measure themselves. To do that, we're going to have to try some things that are different, and not everything's going to work. But I love the definition of excellence. They say the difference between perfection and excellence is having the courage to get caught learning. We are a learning institution. We will try things, and they may not always work. But if we treat success and failure the same as an opportunity to learn, we'll get stronger and we'll get faster. And I'll conclude with this. I'm going to make mistakes. I have a steep learning curve. My mom tells me that I'm made entirely of flaws stitched together with good intentions. But I can promise you that is not as risky as it may sound, because at Marshall, it is a team sport. We know that. It is not I am Marshall or you are Marshall. It is we are Marshall. And so I promise you this, I stand before you today, a humble son of Marshall. I'm grateful for the faith that you and the Board of Governors have put into me, and I promise you I'll work hard every day to justify that faith. Let's do this. Go Herd.